Hey everybody, and welcome. This is a prediction for the United Kingdom for 2022. The chart has thrown up quite a few interesting curveballs for us to have a look at. As you will know, I've already made a prediction for the royal family in respect of the United Kingdom this year, so you may want to have a look at that. I've also done a prediction for Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. So we're going to be looking back at some years in history that also correspond with what's happening now, because I think that should be rather interesting. Just like to say, in response to some questions I had about Kazakhstan and the insane amount of a sort of Illuminati, Freemasonry kind of symbolism going on in Astana, the capital, would I speak to that? And I've done something on that for BitChute. So kind of veered into controversial territory. You always have to be a little bit sensitive on that one. So that's over at BitChute. I would say the main Illuminati capital, however, is London. Do you remember at the time when Dan Brown's books were coming out, particularly Da Vinci Code? There was another book that came out which was not a thriller. It was more researched, and they went into how St. Paul's in London is all based on Solomon's Temple and the whole area around London there. Because a lot of London was destroyed in the fire of 1666, and when it was rebuilt, and that whole St. Paul's area, it was kind of remodeled on Solomon's Temple. And there's also an insane amount of Illuminati symbolism, particularly around the city of London. And it was old Haim Herschel Mordechai and his friend Engels who met at the Red Lion pub to draw up the Communist Manifesto that was in Soho. But of course, Haim Herschel Mordechai is another Karl Marx's real name. And he never mentioned in his books Das Kapital that his cousins, the Rothschilds, print money out of fresh air or create money out of fresh air and charge interest on it. And that is the root of pretty much every problem we are suffering in terms of our society, the control, the totalitarianism, and the inequity and unequal distribution of wealth, and the power being in the hands of kind of the wrong people. So it's actually quite simple. If we can bring that down, we can pretty much bring anything down. We'll bring everything down if we bring that down. Right now, around the world, we've got backtracking by the Czech government, potentially by the German government and the Italian government. Australia and Canada kind of doubling down. In the UK and Ireland, also massive backtracking. Gemma O'Doherty was saying she has a good authority from her sources that they're going to be totally rolling up the COVID era in terms of Ireland and all the social distancing signs, everything disappearing. I believe there is a big pivot in place. I also spoke to that on BitChute, where I talked about Peter McCullough opening a new middle road, which I think a lot of people will follow as we go forward. It's a big pivot. They've achieved a lot of what they wanted, but they're prepared to let this go a while. It's a tactical retreat so they can regroup, because they've got some conflict on their side. Not everyone is on board any longer. So it's a tactical retreat. We shouldn't be too relaxed, because they still have some big guns that they can pull out, the conflict with Russia and the collapse of the financial system. So let's just stay on our toes. So this is the chart I want to show you. Right, here we go. So this is, I've talked about and demonstrated the importance of the April ingress chart in a couple of recent videos. Do look back at those if you kind of don't really understand why this chart is important. So this is the April ingress chart for London. So it covers the whole of the UK for the 20th of March 2022. Hugely significant is the North Node, which is almost in exact conjunction with the midheaven. Very significant. It's at 23 degrees. I mean, it's within like 10 minutes almost. So it's incredibly tight conjunction. Why is this significant? Well, let's see when in history this has happened. So for one, we have Moscow, April ingress 1917, the Russian Revolution. And there you see, you've got the North Node conjunct the midheaven. And we also have it 20 March 1759, French Revolution, Paris. And what do you have? You have the North Node conjunct the midheaven. What happens in both of those? It was the end of royalty. And I pretty much, as you know, I've thought that this is the year that, the Queen goes, Prince Charles comes to the throne, and it's pretty much the year that the royalty ends. Let's stay on the theme of royalty, because I've just shown you that shows something quite significant. Also, Russian Revolution, French Revolution, are we in for a revolution? And when I looked at the April ingress chart for 2023, the North Node is exactly conjunct the Descendant, so it's not going away. I think we're in for some sort of major reorientation stroke revolution in the UK. Other than Boris, I think we'll see a new Labour leader this year too, but I'll come to that. if I go to the actual chart for the UK, I want to hone in on something important. I'm going to look at three things. First of all, these are the solar arcs on the outer wheel, not the transits, but as many of you will know, Saturn is in Aquarius at the moment, and it will be for this year, traveling between it's about 9 degrees now, 7 degrees, and it'll be traveling between 7 and 20 degrees of Aquarius, during which time it will be spending a lot of time conjuncting the Venus of the UK, which is here in Aquarius, right? So there you go. So transiting Saturn will be conjuncting Venus. Yes, Uranus transiting will also be conjuncting Mars, as will solar arc Uranus. I've covered that in another broadcast. I'm going to look back now at a year, at 2 years, when Saturn transiting was conjuncting Venus, and we're going to see the similarities. And if you look here, we have solar arc Pluto, which is squaring the Sun. Solar arc Pluto is just at about like 9 degrees 27 minutes, and it's squaring the Sun of the UK at 10 degrees of Capricorn. And I'm going to be having a look at what happened when transiting Pluto was in exact same position, and you'll see that there's quite a lot. So the first thing, I mentioned royals. 1992, the last time Saturn was conjuncting Venus was Annus Horribilis. That was when the royal family had a terrible year, and at the end of the year, Queen Elizabeth called it Annus Horribilis, and I think there's going to be a repeat of that. We can all see it's on the cards with Andrew and the shenanigans with Harry and Meghan, who I think that relationship could end as well, because it's also a year when a lot of royal divorces happen. So 1992 was the 40th anniversary of Queen Elizabeth ascending to the throne. It was also the day of Black Wednesday. Black Wednesday was a major kind of financial crisis in the UK. 2 reasons. The UK left the exchange rate mechanism, which was the precursor to the euro, and that caused a lot of drama, but it did end up being a good thing. It was also the time when George Soros broke the Bank of England. George Soros was watching the markets. He sold pounds, bought Deutschmarks, causing the pounds to crash down, and then he paid off his debts by transferring the Deutschmark back into pounds and got more pounds, and he was, because obviously the pounds had devalued against the Deutschmark. He paid off the debts and made himself $1 billion. So that was an era when George Soros was very active crashing the UK market. So we're going to be looking for something like that again happening, some sort of manipulation of the markets causing a crash, currency collapse maybe, and there was also a big dip in the property market during this year. So I wonder if that could happen again, a big dip in the property market. As you can see, I've written here some of the major events. So it was the year of Black Wednesday, Annus Horribilis for the royal family. 4,000 jobs were lost across the UK just in the first week of January. The Bank of Credit and Commerce International went into liquidation. So as you can see, bad for the economy, bad for jobs. There were bombings as well, because this was the time of the IRA, of course. There was sort of AIDS was in the news, and scare stories about that. Also, of course, similar to what we're going through with COVID. And interesting, because this was a year, as you'll see with the other year, when Saturn conjuncts Venus, when Russian-UK relations were, there was quite a lot going on with them. And here, 30th January, John Major agreed a weapons control deal with a new Russian premier, Boris Yeltsin. So we could see some sort of agreement or not with Russia. Neil Kinnock denies reports that he had a Kremlin connection. And so I wonder if there's going to be some sort of scandal this year in the UK where it's going to be found that some of our MPs or whatever have a Kremlin connection. I mean, it's already been uncovered that a lot of them have Chinese connections. Look up the group of 46, I think. Yeah, that tells you a lot of our MPs and top officials have close links to China. So I'm looking here, and there's a little bit of a scandal with Kremlin ties of leaders, so we might see a bit more of that. Rising crime, okay. Hopes to the end of the recession are dashed. So recession was a big theme for this year. Back on the royal theme, Andrew and Sarah split. They separated. Again, more news about unemployment, which was 2.647 million and 9.4% of the British workforce out of work. So I think we'll see a lot more about unemployment. And Aldershot was declared bankrupt and became the first Football League club to resign from the league. Well, look, I think that might be important, because the way things have gone with the football clubs, the closures, the lockdown, the mandates, could be affecting the viability of a lot of clubs. So we could see more of those going bankrupt. General election, the Conservative Party were elected. Okay, Man United won the Football League. Oh, maybe that's good for Man United. Neil Kinnock resigns. as the leader of the Labour Party. So I'm wondering if, in similar fashion, there's going to be some sort of scandal where Keir Starmer resigns, because we see that theme going through. Here we've got Princess Anne also divorcing her husband, so more royal problems. Again, more news on the unemployment. There's definitely a theme of rioting, like we have rioting in Coventry, spreading throughout the Coventry districts, etc. So I'm wondering if this year we're going to see tension and unrest over economic issues, rioting because the cost of living crisis, fuel duties, people struggling to heat their homes, people not being able to cope with electricity bills. I think that's going to cause a lot of civil unrest and rioting this year, as it did in this particular year. Then we've got the controversial new biography of Diana, Princess of Wales. Her true story is published. Now this year, if the Queen does pass, we know Harry and Meghan are going to publish a book, aren't they? So very similar. That was the scandal when Diana published her book. And this year maybe we'll have Harry and Meghan publishing their book. Who knows? Okay, let's carry on and see what we've got in these years. So already we can see there's so much. There they go on, more headlines about unemployment, more about riots, this time in Greater Manchester, 16th of July in Harcliffe, Bristol, riots in Blackburn, Burnley, Huddersfield, Peckham, right? Then another scandal, intimate photographs of Sarah, Duchess of York in the text, and that's when she was sucking the toe by the pool. So we've got more in terms of royal scandal. Next, we see the Black Wednesday event on the 16th of September when the government suspended the UK's membership of the European exchange rate mechanism because of the pound crashed. Then unemployment again, 5-year high, and then unemployment was really nearly at 3 million. Okay, to add to the problems for the Windsors, a part of Windsor Castle is gutted in a fire, causing millions of pounds worth of damage. This was very, very upsetting to the Queen. I can even remember the stories in the news. They were rushing out with paintings, trying to save things. So you can see that if this year is going to be anything like the last time Saturn was conjunct Venus, lots of problems for the royals. Then Charles and Diana separated after months of speculation about their marriage. The last Mori poll of the year showed Labour 13 points ahead of the Conservatives. So another big theme this year was a massive drop in the population of the Conservatives, exactly like we're seeing now. And then Anne, Princess Royal, and Timothy Lawrence marry, and IRA bomb. And again, unemployment rises again. Let's look at 1963. Okay, this year saw changes in leadership of both major parties and the Profumo affair. So again, I've said it's possible we'll see not only a change with Boris, maybe we'll see another change. Boris, and then maybe it'll be Liz Truss, maybe she won't do so well, and then we'll get Rishi. And with Keir Starmer, maybe a new leader as well. Here, the Labour leader, Hugh Gatesell, died suddenly, right, and so he had to be replaced. Profumo affair, of course, is another scandal linked to Russia, very similar as in 1992. There was this Neil Kinnock, links to the Kremlin, bit of a scandal. So again, we see this theme of Russia, politicians involved with Russia, scandal, sex scandals, etc. By the way, I did a very interesting analysis of how the Profumo affair and the Epstein affair are so similar and mirror each other in so many ways, including the royal connections. It was done about a year ago. Please do watch that. I put a lot of work into that, and I think it's well worth a watch. Okay, so Harold Wilson comes in for the Labour Party, right? And again, opinion polls indicate that Labour will defeat the Conservatives, so this is another year where Labour surge ahead, so we'll definitely see that theme with Labour getting more and more popular. 70,000 protesters arrive in London. They've marched all the way from Aldermaston to demonstrate against nuclear weapons. There's the theme again of demonstrations. We have Alexandra of Kent, Princess, marrying Ogilvy. Oh, Ogilvy's a big council of 300 guy, yeah. Now that's a topic for another day. But you see, more royal sort of marriages, hatches, dispatches, whatever. Another good year for Man United. So all you Man United fans, take a look at that. Of course, we have the Profumo affair and, like I say, again, scandal in government. I think we're going to be seeing lots of scandal in government this year, causing resignations. Race riots in Dudley. So again, the theme of rioting could be again a Black Lives Matter thing, or maybe triggered by the cost of living crisis. Great train robbery, yeah. Harold Macmillan arrives. Oh, From Russia with Love, the second James Bond film. Again, the Russia theme, but a totally different way. A lot of Beatlemania this year too. So because Venus is in the 5th house in Aquarius, it's all very arty, isn't it? This is this kind of creative, artistic, innovative, creative side of the UK. So I think we might just see Maybe another Beatlemania, another Spice Girls mania, something better than that. Yeah, artistically it could be a good year as well. So some good stuff. I said I'd also mention 1975 when Pluto was squaring the Sun, this time transiting Pluto, whereas now it's solar arc Pluto. So that was Maggie Thatcher defeated Edward Heath, so the Conservative Party did win the election and she became the first female leader. So possibly like Liz Truss, another female leader, not that we haven't had Theresa May. Again, in 75, unemployment exceeded 1 million. A very bad year for unemployment. So again, a nod to the fact that unemployment might be pretty severe this year. Something there about a coach crash. Oh, here's one for you. Jim'll Fix It, presented by Jimmy Savile, his first broadcast. Not that that's got anything to do with my prediction, but interesting anyway. Hatton Tube Station is open, completing extension London Underground, sure. Government's anti-inflation policy comes into effect, so another year with big inflation, which we're expecting. That year, 75, inflation reached 24.2%, the second highest recorded level since records began in 1750 and the highest since 1800. I think we're going to top that this year. So inflation, again, this is a nod to massive inflation. There was also the highest total rainfall in Hampstead. Unemployment, 1.25 million. London Hilton bombed by the IRA. So there's kind of a terrorist theme in all these years as well. Okay, the Spaghetti House siege, in which 9 people are taken as hostages, takes place in London. Again, statistics show that Britain is in a double-dip recession. So you see, all these years, unemployment, recession, inflation, definitely a nod that that's going to be a major theme of the year for London. And that was the year Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody is released. So again, quite good for landmark creative events. Okay, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that. That was a little comparison. So based on that, another annus horribilis for the royal family. We know I'm sort of suggesting that the Queen will pass on and Charles will come to the throne, but expect lots of royal divorces, expect scandal in our government, resignations from both party leaders, Labour surging ahead in the poll, expect massive inflation, a lot of unemployment, and possibly a lot of civil unrest because of the cost of living crisis. But remember, this nodal position signifies that this is a crucial year in a turning point in British history. So there's going to be a lot of other developments which may not be as obvious, but are definitely going to impact the future of the UK in a dramatic way. So expect a lot of uprisings and possibly even our own form of revolution this year and next. Hope you enjoyed that. By the way, would really appreciate some nice reviews and maybe some purchases of my books. Look up Lisa Lazuli on Amazon 2022, and all my astrology books and horoscope books are on there. So if you guys would be kind enough to do a little purchase, massively appreciated. All the other details to my sites and my books are under this. Take care and have a great evening. Have a great weekend.